His name is John C.
What is up, guys? It's your boy J-Man. Welcome back to the show. And guys, we got a new setup. Like, look at this. Guys, trust me, the Lord has blessed me with this desk. Shout out to my friend who I got this off of. Really do appreciate him. But guys, new setup and everything, and guess what? We're starting off with some new stuff. We're starting off with some baseball. Baseball's right around the corner. Baseball's gonna be starting next week. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be a great year, ladies and gentlemen, and I cannot wait for the baseball season to start. So I thought we would start off with officially a baseball predictions video. It is going to be a 3-part series, just like my NHL predictions. We're going to start with the American League. Next video will be the National League, and then my third and final video of the 3-part series will be my playoff predictions. So, of course, we're going to start off with the American League. We're specifically going to start off with the American League East Division. This is actually a very interesting division because you have a lot of interesting teams. You got the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Rays, the Orioles, the Blue Jays. Again, this is actually a very, very interesting division. Very tough division, in my opinion. But there has to be a loser. There has to be a winner of this division. So I'm going to go from the bottom top, obviously. In last place in this division, I have the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, don't get me wrong. The Toronto Blue Jays have a stacked roster. They have, obviously, star first baseman Vlad Guerrero Jr. This guy's a beast. This guy's an animal, but he's already put on record that he's not going to resign with the Blue Jays after the season. He is in the final year of his contract. He's gone. Once he's gone, this team is going to fall apart. You think they're going to be last now? Oh my gosh, they're going to hit rock bottom next year. But obviously, again, they have other great players. They have a star outfielder Anthony Santander. They have Bo Bichette, shortstop, again, really good player. Pitcher Max Scherzer, outfielder George Springer. Like, this is actually a pretty good roster, but it just, again, like, it's a very old roster at the same time, though. Like, again, like, I could see Bo Bichette getting traded when it comes closer to the trade deadline for baseball. He could go to a contender, obviously, but again, yeah, this team is just not very, like, stacked. They don't have a lot of depth. They don't have a lot of star power, besides Vlad Guerrero, obviously. But again, this team is just, it's just not that good. They didn't have a good year last year, and I don't see them having a good year this year. It's going to, in fact, be worse, in my opinion. And that's why I have the Blue Jays at the bottom of the American League East Division. Next up, 4th place in the American East Division, I do have the Tampa Bay Rays. This is a very interesting team because they're actually one of the youngest teams in baseball. They have one of the best prospect pools in all of baseball. They actually have a really good starting pitcher in Shane McClanahan, but he's just coming off Tommy John surgery. A lot of people are going to be very skeptical of how he's going to do. I think he's going to be just fine. He's going to be great again, in my opinion. But besides that, they don't really have any other standout names. They got Brandon Lowe, second baseman. He's okay. He's good. Yandy Diaz, first baseman, not bad at all. Ho-Sung Kim, second baseman as well. Again, he's a nice player. But besides that, like, this team is, again, not stacked. They're not good as far as overall depth right now, but they will be very soon because, again, they have one of the best prospect pools in all of baseball, and probably in the next handful of years, they're going to be contenders real soon again. But in my opinion, they're just not ready yet, and that's why I have them in 4th place in the American League East Division. Next up, and this one is actually going to be pretty shocking. A lot of people are going to be very upset at this, and this isn't coming from a Dodgers hater, by the way. It's not, because obviously, like, I don't like this team. I really don't like this team that I'm about to say, but respect where respect is due. They gave us a good fight last year in the World Series, but they're starting off with a lot of injuries to start off this year, and having said that, I have finishing in third place in the American League East Division, the New York Yankees. Again, a lot of people are going to be upset at me about this, but you got to understand that this team is having such a bad start to their season, and the season hasn't already begun. They just got some breaking news regarding Garrett Cole, their star starting pitcher. They just received word that he's going to have Tommy John surgery. He's out for the year. He's going to be out going into next season. Like, that's such a big blow to this Yankees roster. Yeah, sure, they're still stacked. Sure, they got Aaron Judge still. Giancarlo Stanton is also starting off on the injured list as well. He's going to be out for the first couple weeks, probably a few months maybe of the season for the New York Yankees. That's another huge blow. But again, they're still stacked. They still have a really good roster, obviously. I don't think I just don't think they're going to be ahead of the other two teams that I have listed above them in the division. They're going to stay competitive, yes, but I do have them barely missing out on the wild card in baseball this year and having them third place in their division. Coming in at second place in the American League East Division and getting a wild card spot in the playoffs for baseball, I do have the Boston Red Sox. This is actually a really stacked roster, guys. They did a lot in this offseason. They got a lot of good players. They got Alex Bregman at third base now. They got starting pitcher Garrett Crochet. Walker Buehler apparently signed with them. Again, that was a huge shock to me, but he ended up signing with the Boston Red Sox. Good for him. Star center fielder Duran, Rafael Devers, third baseman, one of the better third basemen in baseball. Aroldis Chapman, closer pitcher for them. Like this is actually a really, really good roster. Like they also signed Trevor Story, great shortstop. They did a lot of moves this offseason. They upgraded their roster so much while not giving up their future. They also have a really good prospect for top 10, I believe, in baseball. Like, this team is very, very stacked. The only reason why I don't have them finishing and winning the division is because the team above them, I believe, is just a little bit better. They have more experience. But again, this team is definitely a dark horse when it comes to playoffs. Let me tell you, this Boston Red Sox team is going to be very, very scary to face when playoff starts. So I believe they will make a chase. They will make a run potentially, but right now I do have them finishing second in the division, but claiming a wild card spot in the playoffs for baseball. And winning the American League East Division, I do have the Baltimore Orioles. This is a really, really stacked team, guys, when it comes to the regular season. Like, they are such a great regular season team. They have players like Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Charlie Morton, Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle, Gary Sanchez, Felix Bautista. Like, this team is just absolutely stacked all around when it comes to infield, outfield, and pitching and batting. Like, this team is just absolutely stacked. The only question mark is, can they get past their playoff curse? They are very known for choking in the playoffs recently, and a lot of people think they just won't get it done, but maybe it will be this year. Who knows? But I do have them winning the division and potentially making a run towards the World Series this year in the playoffs for baseball. Now, moving on to the next division in the American League, I have the Central Division. This is a very weird division because you have a lot of bad teams in this division, but it's also very competitive when it comes to near the top of the division. But again, it has also one of the weaker teams in baseball. Having said that, in last place in the division, this comes as a no shock. I do have the Chicago White Sox. Again, this team has nobody. They have Luis Robert Jr., Miguel Vargas. Like, this team, like literally, like, this team is just so bad. Like, yeah, their prospect pool is starting to round out a little bit. They're starting to get some talent, but besides that, like, there's nothing going for this team. They had such a bad year last year. They broke the record for most losses in a season last year. Like, what? This team is just bad, and they're going to be bad for years to come. Like, I don't see them being competitive for at least another 6-7 years potentially. Like, this team is just bad. It's bad. It's really hard to get competitive in baseball too, honestly. But again, no shock here. I have the Chicago White Sox finishing last in the division and going nowhere. And again, competing once again for a top spot as far as a top draft pick. Finishing fourth place in the American League Central Division, I do have the Minnesota Twins. This is a very interesting team because they were actually pretty competitive to the start of the season last year, but they fell off so hard. They missed the playoffs eventually. And again, they also lost a lot of key pieces in the offseason. They only have Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, Byron Buxton, like Ty France. Like, again, their infield and outfield is somewhat good, but they have no one at pitching. Like, this team has no pitching whatsoever. Like, this team, I believe, is just not going to be that good this year. I believe they're going to be, again, towards the bottom of the league this year, unfortunately. I just don't see them being that competitive. And that is why I do have the Minnesota Twins finishing fourth place in the Central Division. Next up, in third place in the division, I do have the Detroit Tigers. This was a very interesting team because, obviously, like last year, a lot of people thought they were still in a rebuild phase. Like, they were going to be nowhere near playoffs, but they snuck into playoffs. They won a playoff series against the Houston Astros, which was a huge upset. Made it all the way to the division series, almost made it to the ALCS, but ended up losing to the Cleveland Guardians. This is again a really good roster. I believe they surprised a lot of people. I think they're gonna surprise a lot of people again this year. They are led by star pitcher Tarek Skubal. This guy is a freaking ace. This guy is gonna throw bonkers, bro. Like, this guy's gonna be great again. They also have Gleyber Torres, Javier Baez, like Flaherty, Alex Cobb, Riley Green. Like, this team is very, very good again. Like, they're gonna be good for years to come. Obviously, they're very young, they're very fast. Like, this is again going to be a very uprising team very soon. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they reach it, maybe into the second place in this division, or maybe even the top. Who knows? But I think this is going to be a very, very good team for years to come in Detroit. And right now, I do have them finishing third place, but claiming a wild card spot in the American League playoffs. Finishing second place in the Central Division and claiming a wild card spot, I do have the Cleveland Guardians. First off, before I even get started with this, I do hate the name Guardians, just so that everybody knows. Everyone needs to know my baseball opinions. I don't know why they got rid of the other name. I won't say it because apparently it is offensive, but I hate the name. Get that out of the way right now. But moving on, the Cleveland Guardians, yes, I have them finishing second place in the division. Again, this is a very stacked lineup, very deep lineup. You have Jose Ramirez at third base. You got Carlos Santana at first base. Shane Bieber, one of the starting pitchers. Again, really good pitcher. Steven Kwan, like, this guy is such a consistent hitter. He's so good when it comes to his average. It's not even funny. Yohansky Noel is a great first baseman for them as well. They got Emmanuel Clase, one of the best closing pitchers in all of baseball. Like, this team is very stacked. I think they're going to be very competitive once again this year. I don't see them winning the division this year, but again, they're going to be close. I think it's going to be very close between them and the next team I'm going to be talking about. But I do have them finishing second place and claiming a wild card spot in the American League playoffs. Hi.
Hi.
What's up?
On your shoe, look inside the lip, the tongue. I guess I should say the tongue of the shoe. You know what a tongue is of the shoe?
Mm-hmm. No.
Tongue on the very top of it has a label. Is it gone? Is it erased?
Yeah, it's erased. Like that, and I already threw those shoes away. Like, they're gone. So I can't really check.
Like, where are they, in the trash outside?
Yes.
Okay, it's not raining. You can go check.
Okay, Mom, I'm also in the middle of filming a video.
Sorry. Well, I don't want to get you too small or too big.
Well,
what do you want me to get? 10 or 10 and a half?
Go 10 and a half. It's fine. Again, that's
Okay.
the regular shoe size I get anyway, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. And winning the Central Division, I do have the Kansas City Royals. They are once again back winning the division, folks. This team is very stacked, very young, too. They are obviously led by star shortstop Bobby Wood Jr. Dude's going to be an MVP candidate again this year. This dude's going to skyrocket this for years to come. Like, this kid is going to be so freaking good. They have Jonathan India at second base. Salvador Perez, obviously, the vet, the star catcher for the Kansas City Royals. They have Seth Lugo, their star pitcher. This guy showed up out of nowhere last year and just dominated the league when it came to pitching. Like, watch out for him. He's going to be really, really good. They also have Cole Reagans, Carlos Estevez, Joey Waymer, Kyle Wright, Michael Lorenzen. Like, this team is very much stacked. They have a lot of depth, and I think they could potentially make a run this year. And that is why I do have them finishing as the Central Division winners and making the playoffs in the American League. And finally, I'm finishing off with the American League West. This is a very again, another very interesting division. You have a lot of star power in this division when it comes to all the teams. But unfortunately, again, like I said, there's also a lot of injuries when it comes to this division. And starting off with a lot of injuries, I'm starting off with the last place in the division. Disappointed! The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Why is the name so long? It's so stupid. Yes, I do have the Angels finishing last in the division. The reason being is because, yes, they actually have a solid, like, roster this year. Obviously, they have star center fielder Mike Trout still. They picked up Yusei Kikuchi, the pitcher from Japan. He's a really good addition. Jorge Soler, again, another good outfielder for them. Ben Joyce, that dude actually has a really good arm. He's one of their prospects of theirs. He has a flamethrower of a hand. Taylor Ward, Luis Rengifo, Mickey Moniak. Again, like, they actually have some good pieces, but not like those playoff breaking pieces, you know? Like, it's not It's not a good enough roster. And like I said, a lot of these players are also known for their injuries, including his name. Anyways, I do have them finishing last place in the division. Again, injuries are going to play a huge part of it. The big question is, will Mike Trout get traded? Will he actually be dedicated and stay with the Angels? A lot of people say that he's going to stay with the Angels. I wouldn't be surprised. But at the same time, the Angels have to do something with their prospect pool. They're one of the worst prospect pools in baseball. They have one of the worst teams in baseball, so they gotta change it up somehow. And I think the best move would be for them to trade Mike Trout, but who knows if they'll ever do that. But having said that, I do have the Angels finishing last in the American League West Division. Next up, fourth place in the West Division, I do have the... What city are they even in now? They are in apparently Sacramento. But I'm just gonna call them the Athletics. Obviously, they're former known as the Oakland Athletics. They will be moving to Las Vegas here soon in the next couple years. I believe in 2028. But again, I do have them finishing fourth place in the division, slightly better than the Angels. This is actually a very uprising team as far as in the A's. They have a very young roster, very good prospect pool. They have Brent Rooker, Lawrence Butler, Luis Severino, Mason Miller. This is actually a very, very good team as far as when it comes to youth. But again, they have no experience. They have nothing beyond those players that I just named. But they have really good players coming up soon as far as in their prospect pool. They have one of the best prospect pools in all of baseball. And I just don't think they're going to be competitive yet. I don't think they're going to start being competitive until they actually hit Las Vegas. But we'll see. You never know. They could shock a lot of people like the Detroit Tigers did. Maybe. Who knows? But having said that, I don't see that happening this year or next year. So I do have them finishing in fourth place and missing out on the playoffs in the West Division. Next up, in third place in the division and barely missing out on the playoffs for the first time in God knows how long, I do have the Houston Astros. Look me in the eyes.
I hate this team.
Sorry, had to get that out of my system. Anyways, yes, I do have the Astros barely missing out on the playoffs this year. Yes, they still have a really good roster. They got obviously Jose Altuve still. They got Christian Walker, Isaac Paredes, Jeremy Pena, Yordan Alvarez, Framer Valdez, Lance McCullers, Josh Hader, Luis Garcia. Again, they have a really stacked roster, actually. Don't get me wrong. But they're also very old. They're one of the oldest teams in all of baseball, and because of that, I think injuries are going to play a major factor on this team, and because of that, I do think they're going to barely miss out on the wild card. Again, they're going to be absolutely competitive still. Don't get me wrong. They're going to be one of the... they're probably going to be like just a win or two out of the wild card, in my opinion. But having said that, I can't see them making the playoffs this year just because of all the tougher teams in the American League. This is such a very competitive American League this year. Like, a lot of teams, like the Red Sox, like the freaking Guardians, like, they made a lot of moves this year, like the Royals. They made a lot of moves. And because of that, like, it's just become so much more competitive. So because of that, I do have the Astros becoming one of the victims and missing out on the playoffs this year. Finishing second place in the West Division and barely missing out on the division crown, I do have the Seattle Mariners. Wow, this team is actually, like, they actually look like a playoff team. Don't get me wrong. They actually have a lot of good talent. They got George Kirby, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Rowley, Mitch Garver, Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, Randy Rosarina, Bryce Miller, J.P. Crawford, Mitch Haniger, Jorge Polanco. Like, this team is very good. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't think they make it again. I see them with the Astros. They barely miss out on the playoffs this year by like a win or two. Again, I just don't think they're ready. I don't think they're managed well either, in my opinion. But again, this is a team that I think could sneak into the playoffs and be wrong about. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I don't think that's going to happen. And again, they're going to be very competitive. Very, very competitive. But I don't see them making the playoffs, and I do see them barely missing out on the division this year. And finally, winning the West Division and making it back to the playoffs after such a down year last year, I do have the Texas Rangers. This is a team, obviously, that won the World Series 2 years back. Last year, they did really back because of injuries and missed out on the playoffs, but I do see them returning. I do see them actually winning the division this year and making a potential run in the playoffs this year. And that's because they just have a really stacked roster. They're getting healthy again. They got Jacob deGrom, John Gray, Marcus Semien, Jock Peterson, Nathan Eovaldi, Corey Seager, Aroldis Garcia, Evan Carter. Like, this team is actually very stacked. Jake Berger. I love that name, Berger. But anyways, again, this team is actually very stacked, very young too, in my opinion. And they're in a win now mode. They're going to probably make a move or two when it comes to the deadline and make it even better. But I do see them winning the division, and I do see them making the playoffs this year. And who knows? They actually could shock a lot of people this year and potentially actually make it to the World Series. Maybe we'll see. They're going to be very competitive, though. So mark my words on that. But having said that, they are going to make it to the playoffs and win the West Division this year. And that is it for my first part of this series for MLB predictions. My next video will be part 2. We are going to be talking about the National League. We're going to be talking about the defending World Series champions, the Los Angeles Dodgers. And like I said, guys, that's going to be another great video. Like and subscribe as always, guys. And again, this is like, we're going to be doing so much more, I promise. Like, this is going to be so good. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, let's go!